Welcome back. Today we're going to take a look at the TRN ST5. So the ST5 is TRN's new hybrid set. It's a one dynamic driver, which I believe is beryllium coated, and 4 balanced armatures. For those of you who are a little more time constrained, I will kind of briefly just say it is a very, very good hybrid, especially at $60, especially in a year where there haven't been that many hybrids at all. And I think TRN, sort of went back to the TRN of the past and delivered something that's a little more friendly to the global customer as opposed to maybe their domestic customer, which is what they really were targeting for the past couple of years, especially with the VX sets and the VX Pro sets. Those were a little more spicy, and this one is very much a return to a more balanced set for the rest of us. So for those of you who have a little more time, here's what the ST5 looks like up close. These are magnesium alloy shells. And I forgot what they call this. They have a sort of fancy venting system right there that they had a cool name for, which I don't remember. But very, very nice build quality, metal nozzles, magnesium alloy shell. This, of course, is the TRN modular cable, and you're getting about a $10 cable. And these are about $6 a piece if you buy them separately. So it's actually a very, very good value set for what you're getting for $60. So I do want to thank HifiGo for sending this review sample to me. I'll post a link to it, and very much thanks to them for sending this one to me. So the front has a nice little picture of the back. Those of you who are really into BA placements will sort of notice that there's 2 BAs right there on the side, and there's 2 in the nozzle. And as I talk about the tuning and how relaxed it is, do consider that. Some people will see 2 BAs in the nozzle and immediately just say, nope, it's going to be crazy, spicy, sharp treble, and that's very much a description of what TRN did in the past. This is very, very relaxed. How they got the upper mids and trebles as relaxed as they did is something that TRN must have learned over the 2 years, because they're doing something differently. So I will point that out and say don't immediately discount the ST5 simply because there's 2 BAs in the nozzles. So let's kind of jump right into it. The good stuff, like I just said, it's actually a very relaxed hybrid set. There's not that crazy treble from the VX Pro, and I'll actually say it's more of a Western version of the VX Pro. So let's quickly take a look at what the graph looks like, and you can kind of see where ST5 is the blue line. So depending on how you graph it and how you pick the normalization, it's probably slightly above VX Pro, but they're probably very, very close. A little lower gain on ST5, which is the blue line. VX Pro is the red line. So a little less gain here, very easy. It still rises a little early, but then really, really goes very relaxed here through, about 2 through 6. So all those points in the treble where, especially in VX Pro, which were a little bit sharp and people were using foam tips or micropore and all these things to get around the sharpness and the spiciness of this little bit, all of that is sort of been reworked for ST5. So that's why I say this is more of a Western style, lower treble, not as bright, all these things that are very appealing to the global customer, not just their domestic customer. So many, many props to TRN for really going back to a more relaxed style, because that is what I prefer. So build quality and accessories, like I said, it's a great value. It's about $60, magnesium alloy shells, hybrid or modular cable, top-notch accessories, cable, box, all that's about what you would expect at $60. And like I said, it's a very good, solid pick. So let's jump into the nitpicks. And I will say that most everything on this page is actually a big nitpick. I just kind of picked out a few. So the pin to gain pre-2K. So rising a bit early at 1.5 or so. Some people are into that. Some people are not into it. They really pulled it off by having a level that's a little lower. So you can rise earlier if you have a lower level, and you drop off so it actually sounds kind of balanced, which is exactly what they do. Some people will say female vocals don't have enough energy or enough detail. This is a little bit lower, so some people will prefer it about 3K, so you could actually raise the volume and it sounds a little less forward in your face. So I'm sort of undecided on whether this approach of rising earlier but to a low level really works for me personally. But it has been a little bit of a trend lately of this very relaxed gain area rising a little bit lower but a little bit earlier. So do take note of that if you've ever thought about that. So I will say it's definitely not shouty. It's just a little bit more forward, and when you combine that with the stage, I think it just sounds a little bit more inconsistent to vocals. If you really have a sense of vocals being a little distant and some being in your face, I think this one bounces between those two a little more than usual. So pretty big nitpick. I would definitely pair this one with a more neutral sources. These guys are not really, they're sort of neutral, but they're sort of not really as bright as they should be to really make the BA shine on ST5. So I will definitely go with a neutral source. I went with bigger open tips like KBO7s, and I really want to hear 4 BAs and the midsection and the treble. So I would not pair it with a warmer source or with tips that are maybe a little smaller bore, which is going to emphasize the bass section, or the mid bass, which is already has a really nice bump to it. So I didn't feel the need to really emphasize that bit of it. And like I said, it's just not a bigger treble boosted detailed chaser set like VX Pro. I think that's what I would say that one they really tried to do. It was just a little bit too intense for me, and I do prefer a more relaxed treble like ST5. So like I just mentioned, dongle pairing, I think these guys, the M1 and the M1, this is the M1 Smart and the M1, they're kind of okay at best. They're not really as detailed as they need to be for a 4BA set like this. You spent $60 on this, it should really sound quite good and quite detailed, and you definitely don't want your $30-something dongle to detract from this experience. And I think these two will probably be a lot better on brighter sets, and between D13 and ST5, neither of those sets are very bright, so I think you do need something that's a little more neutral, something with maybe a little bit of a treble lift. So that's what I got on dongle pairing. So sound-wise, like I said, it's got this relaxed V shape, pretty much like a VX Pro with a more relaxed treble. V90 was sort of a similar shape, but I think it actually had a bigger upper mid. This one has more of a nicer balance of mid bass, unforced detail, so they didn't really bump that gain area. They didn't bump 2 through 5K to really force a whole lot of BA detail, which some brands tend to do. And they gave it a nice relaxed treble level as well, so it actually sounds pretty consistent from the upper mids all the way through the treble. And that sort of ends up in a very nice coherence from bass all the way through treble. Even though, like I said, they had BAs in the nozzle, they definitely did something to avoid that shrillness that you would really get from, especially if you tried TRN, more budget friendly sets in the past where they had a single BA pointing at your eardrum. Those tended to be much, much sharper than what you get on ST5. So, but yeah, this one's actually tuned quite well. So bass-wise, I've always been a TRN dynamic driver bass guy. I think they always have picked the right dynamic drivers. They do quite good on tuning, even though their sets tend to be a little bassier. And this one is certainly not bass shy. I mean, if you judge your bass levels off of Harman 2019, how much of an offset that is and how much of a bump that is, this one is not bass shy. And so I think TRN just hits sort of that right balance of levels and quality. It's just a very fun bass sound that works on tons and tons of genres, not too bassy to mess up something that requires more balance like jazz, but still quite enough bass to handle R&B or even rock. Definitely pairing and tips go a long way with this guy. Like I just said, it's got quite a bit of a mid-bass bump right there, so I definitely used bigger open tips just to keep the mid-bass from blooming out a little more. If you're into a bigger bassy sound and you want it to boom a little more, then definitely use smaller tips. But for me, I sort of wanted to preserve the quality as it is without really mudding it up with the wrong tips. So this one also doesn't go real deep. There's sort of a slight kind of roll off over here in the sub bass. And I think that was probably the right choice on this one. Definitely, well, at least if you want more sub bass, then use smaller tips. But I do think the mid bass emphasis right here just gives it a lighter, faster sound. I think it works better with the BAs. I think that was actually a pretty good choice, and I think some people like it to go really deep, but I think on this tuning, on this set, I think that was probably a good move. So the mids, definitely a little bleed in from the bass, gives you some of that warmth and body, and just to take that BA edge off. This is not one of these sharper, edgier BA sets. It's not analytical. It's got a very warm sound to it, and some of that does come over through this little curve. That is slightly boosted all the way into about 600 or so. So carry a little energy in there, smooth things out, makes for a very nice, enjoyable, relaxing set. And it's just a very nice balance of fun and keeping it sounding like a hybrid, right? You still want to have that detail. You still want a little edge to it. You want to know there's 4 BAs to it. And I think this is a pretty good balance between those two. And like I said, the pin rises just a bit too early, and I think that sort of curtails the relaxed part of that sound on at least some vocals. Some tracks, they just sound, I don't know, a little bit in your face, a little bit too early, a little bit too close. And as I said, the stage is actually close and in your face as well. And I think the two just don't play together on some tracks all that well. So that, I definitely would have changed that. I definitely would have pushed the pin again a little later, even if the level had to be a little higher. But again, it actually plays well into this faster, lighter hybrid sound that they did with the bass as well. So I could nitpick it, but it was probably a good choice for what they did. And I would call this one genre fluid. This safe tuning just works well across lots and lots of genres. It's very much a great set for a very diverse playlist because it's super safe. There's no real crazy treble peaks. There's not crazy bass. The mids aren't super recessed. Everything is very conservatively tuned, and I think it just generally works across many, many genres. And I think that, again, that was just what people want in an affordable hybrid set in 2022. They didn't want to buy a special set just to hear analytical, super detailed tunings when there aren't that many hybrids out there, period. So, like I said, vocals, that's kind of a nitpick there. I think the detail is okay there. They probably could have pushed the detail a little bit more. They've got 4 BAs. They definitely went a little light on the level and the one in the nozzle, the 2 in the nozzle. They probably could have pushed those like some of the TRNs in the past. But again, just kind of a nitpick there. Treble-wise, definitely, like I said, the lower rises a little bit too early, but that lower level, even though it rises early, the lower level really keeps it from grabbing the emphasis. And so you actually hear the whole treble in sort of a nice balanced way. Typically what brands end up doing is this is just a little too high, it grabs too much emphasis. It's good for some vocals. Some genres like that because there's a ton of energy right there, but it makes it really harder to hear the rest of the treble. It sort of throws off the balance of this whole area. And ST5, even though this is downsloping a bit and there's not a ton of energy there, I think this whole balance of rising low, rising a little early, and then sloping down, I think that was a really, really good, safe choice for this set. So nice balance. Treble sensitive fans, you're definitely going to enjoy that relaxed level of forgiveness. Treble fans will probably want a bit more. You can't satisfy everyone every time, but this one is definitely for the folks who like it a little more relaxed. And it's definitely on the fence again. It's going to work very well for many genres because it doesn't go too far in either direction. So just a good choice there. And it just has a very price-appropriate BA sound. If you think that you're going to get a $60 set that doesn't have a little BA timbre to it, that's kind of a stretch. But as far as people who want to hear a hybrid, something that a 4BA takes, dynamic driver a little further, I think this one sort of hit the mark right there. So stage, again, this is my other nitpick. It just has the width, but not really any height or depth to it. TRN, it's classic TRN too. When you go back to the VX Pro, it was very, very similar. It just kind of sticks to your face. It's got this flat semicircle right around your face, and it's really in. It's kind of like wearing goggles. That's about where the sound emanates from. It doesn't really have any depth to it. It has nice width because it wraps around your head, but it doesn't really have any height. So I will say that in 2022, that it probably needs to be reworked a little bit to just sound a little bit bigger, a little more expensive, even at that price. Right now, it's just a little bit too classic TRN for what they, considering everything else that they worked in here with their sound and their signature. That would probably be their next thing that they should focus on. So, again, thank you guys for tuning in, and I will see you next time.